All right, hi kids. I'm happy to see you, even if it's only through this. This is my first time doing this thing where I record my Elmo at home, so it might be a little janky, it might be a little messed up, but please just show me grace. I really worked hard to make sure that I could get this software downloaded and set up so I could take notes with you and do math with you at home. So the one really positive thing about this is oftentimes kids say I move too fast. You have the ability to pause me. So at any time during these lessons, if you need to pause, you can literally pause, catch up, and then get back with us. We're going to follow the same format where we do a title, where we do our EQ, our notes, and our summary. Oftentimes, your summary will be how you get credit for your learning today. I'll have you enter it into a Google Classroom assignment. So really make sure that you're doing the notes and practicing, because you will have to submit homework assignments through Google Classroom, and you're not going to be able to do the assignments unless you know how to do the math. All right, so our first unit, I need to get right to it, okay? So our first unit we're gonna deal with is called data analysis. So data analysis, okay? And our EQ is how can analyzing data help us? All right, so first let's talk about data. Data is just information collected. Okay, could be how old are you? It could be what's your birthday? It could be what is your favorite color? It could be how many siblings do you have? How many times have you been out of state? It could just be any time you collect information on a question. And then let's talk about analysis or analysis. It's when you really look at the data and make sense of it. So making sense of data. Okay. So it's when you look at data and you try to make sense of it. So it's when, that's what scientists do when they are looking at large sets of data collected and they try to come up with something out of it. When you analyze something, you're really breaking it down and trying to understand what it truly means. Let's say let's ask, if we were to ask the question, how many middle schoolers, or how many times middle schoolers have broken a bone? And we see that, wow, middle schoolers have really been breaking bones a lot lately. Then doctors can look at that and scientists can say, okay, what do we need to do to help middle schoolers have more calcium? So it's when you look at something and try to make sense of it, try to look at the facts and see what happens from it. So one way to analyze data that's used a lot in the real world and really a lot in science is called an average, but in math we like to make things sound fancy, so we call it the mean. Okay, mean is again just a fancy word for average. Okay, mean is just a fancy word for average, and the steps to find the average or the mean are: one, add all your data points together. And so that's step one. Step two is then divide by number of data points. So in this, to find mean, all it is adding and dividing, skills that you already have, which is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and do an example. I always do that with you. So let's do ages of kids at a movie. Okay, let's say we're trying to analyze the ages of kids at a movie. We ask them their ages. So we got 10, 12, 12, 11, 13, let's say another 10 and a 9. Okay, so step one says add it all together. Ms. Minch is going to allow you to use a calculator for this part of it. So let's go ahead and get started in my calculator. 10 plus 12 plus 12 plus 11 plus 13 plus 10 plus 9 equals 77. So step one was to add it all together, and we got 77. I'm going to write that down so I don't forget. I'm going to check it one more time because that's what mathematicians do. 10 plus 12 plus 12 plus 11 plus 13 plus 10 plus 9. Okay, so notice how I hit enter in my calculator before I move on, okay? Because if you just hit divide, your calculator is going to divide by the last number, so you have to hit enter. So now I take 77 and I divide it by the number of data points we have. So I'm going to count. Okay, let me scroll back up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, I don't need a calculator for this. I know that 11 is my average. So that means that the mean or the average age of kids at the movie was 11 for this showing. Right, let's move on to our next way to analyze data. Another one is called mode. Mode sounds like most. And that's helpful because it's the most occurring data point. Okay, your mode is the one that occurs the most in your in your data. So if we were to look back at our example problem, we were to look back up there at our ages of movies, the one that occurs the most. Okay, so really it's kind of simpler to do this one. Oh, before we do examples though, I should always I'm going to make sure I write my steps for you. Okay. What I like to do for finding mode is kind of helpful. You don't have to do this. Okay, steps. What's really helpful is to order everything least to greatest. Order data least to greatest. That really helps make sure you have everything in order. And then another thing that really is important to know is you can have one mode, multiple modes, or zero modes. So now we'll go reference our example and then I can answer what this means for you. So if I look back at this question up top, my ages of movies, okay, I have 2 10s, or first I have a 9, then I have 2 10s, then I have 1 11, then I have 2 12s, and then I have 1 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 9 does not occur the most. 10 happens twice and 12 happens twice. So for this example, 10 and 12, our pen's running out, 10 and 12 would both be my modes. Okay, you can have more than one mode because both of them occur the most. Now, if we pretend that that 10 and that 12 wasn't there and each number occurred once, then you would say no mode. Okay, so you can either have zero modes when they all occur the same amount, you can have multiple modes, or you can just have one mode. Okay, the next one we use is called median. Okay, median sounds like middle. And it is the true middle data point. Okay, so the median is the true middle data point. So if you were to line everyone up at that movie theater and go, okay, go from least to greatest in your age, and you chop off till you get to the middle, that's the median. So our steps for this are to 1, order least to greatest. 2, cross off on both sides till the middle. Now this has another star, okay? Because if 2 in the middle, average them or find the mean. We'll practice that. I always give you example problems, okay? So let's go ahead and do the example from above. So we're going to order least to greatest again, which we already did. 9, 10, 10, 11, 12, 12, 13. Oh, I forgot that that pen wasn't working. I got it over there. 10, 11, 12. Okay, so I cross off till I find the middle. Use a highlighter so you can still see. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Aha, that means 11 is our median. Okay, now if there was an extra number, let's say a little kid snuck in there that we didn't see, and we had 9, 10, 10, 11, another 11-year-old came in, 12, 12, 13. Okay, we follow the same thing, order least to greatest. We cross off 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Aha! You would take the 2 in the middle and find the average of them, or find the mean, which means you add them together and then divide by how many you have. Well, it's still 11. Okay, you have to add them together and then divide by how many you have if you have 2. All right, let's go to the next part. Okay, another way to look at data and to analyze data to learn more about our information is by finding the range. Okay, a range is when you look at like how far spread apart your data is. How spread your data is. Okay, so it's how spread apart it is, and what it is it's purely the highest data point subtract the lowest data point. So the steps are kind of easy from there, huh? Step 1 is just highest minus your lowest, and that really tells you how far spread your data is. If you have a small range, that means all your data is really close together. If you have a large range, that means that your data is really spread apart. So if we go back to our movie question, our oldest kid there was 13, and our youngest kid there was 9, which means that our range was 4. That's it. That tells us that the age range of people at the movies only spread by 4. That means that if I was, let's say, a advertiser for this movie, I would know that I only have about 4 years I need to advertise to. Most people coming to my movie are pretty close in age. Okay, and obviously, if let's say a 90-year-old walked in, well, 90 minus 9 is 81. That's a large range. That means you have to cover a lot of people when you're advertising for your movie. All right, and the last one for today that I like is called the outlier. Now, this is something that just tells you about your data. An outlier sounds like liar. Okay, so a liar is someone who isn't telling the truth. So let's go back to our question about the ages at the movies. We had 9 to 13-year-olds. All that data makes sense. It seems like that would be data that is consistent. They were all around the same. We had a small range. All the data was clumped together. Now, if I bring that 90-year-old back in, okay, and let's say you didn't know that it was ages of people a movie, you would say, whoa, that 90 really sticks out. It's really far away from where your data is clumped, okay? So outliers are data that don't make sense, or data that doesn't make sense. Okay, and there's stuff to go with that too. We'll just put our stars below. You can have 0, 1, or multiple. So you can have no outliers. In our initial set of data, we didn't have an outlier. We had 9 through 13-year-olds. That made sense for our data. When we added the 90-year-old and we had 1 outlier, that was very far away from our data. What if the 90-year-old brought their 92-year-old partner? Well, then there'd be 2 outliers. Let's say we had another question. We were asking for how many words you can type in a minute, and most people could do 60, 70, 82, 50, and one person could only do 1, they would be an outlier because they were too low. So that's another thing. It can be too high or too low. Okay. Now, don't write your summary yet. We're not done with this, but we're going to be done with this video clip because my files will get too large. So this is what you should have done for day 1. You're going to have homework to just practice doing these things to calculate the mean, median, mode, range, and outlier for some data sets. And then when we come back on Monday, we're going to finish these notes. Monday. When we come back on our day 3, you're going to finish these notes, but I don't want you to write the summary yet. Thanks, guys. Stop recording.